A janitor who never earned more than $25,000 a year left $8 million to his local hospital when he died. A Harvard-educated Merrill Lynch executive, a man who had everything, went completely bankrupt. Same country, same era. Completely opposite outcomes. The difference had nothing to do with intelligence, nothing to do with information. It came down to one thing: behavior. Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money is not a book about spreadsheets or interest rates. It's a book about the invisible forces, the biases, the emotions, the blind spots that determine whether you build wealth or quietly destroy it. In this video, 5 ideas from this book that will genuinely change the way you think about money. Let's go. Here's the first thing Housel wants you to understand. Nobody makes financial decisions randomly. Everyone, including the person who buries cash under the mattress or blows their savings on lottery tickets, is acting on a logic that makes perfect sense given their personal history. Your personal experience with money makes up roughly 0.00001% of all economic history ever recorded. But it makes up about 80% of how you think the world works. If you were born in 1970, the stock market delivered nearly 10 times its value during your teens and 20s. You probably trust stocks. You probably think long-term investing is a no-brainer. If you were born in 1950, the market went nowhere during those same years, adjusted for inflation. You probably carry more skepticism. You're not wrong. You're just working from different data. This matters enormously. Because when you look at someone making a financial decision you don't understand, don't call them stupid. Ask what experience shaped them. They're not crazy. They're just living in a different world than you. And if that's true, if we're all shaped by our own tiny slice of history, then there's one force that almost everyone underestimates. Not because it's complicated, but because the human brain literally cannot picture it. Warren Buffett's net worth at the time this book was written was $84.5 billion. Here's the part no one talks about. $84.2 billion of that, virtually all of it, came after his 50th birthday. His skill is investing. We know that. But his secret, the thing that actually explains his wealth, is time. He started at age 10 and never stopped. Run the numbers. If Buffett had started investing at 30, a completely normal age, and retired at 60 with the exact same return rate of 22% per year, his net worth today would be around $11.9 million. Not $84 billion. 11 million. Same skill, same discipline, different starting point. The compounding effect isn't just powerful, it's almost impossible for the human brain to fully grasp. We think linearly. Compounding is exponential. The lesson isn't to be like Buffett. The lesson is that starting early, even small, even imperfect, creates a runway that skill alone can never buy back. But here's what nobody tells you about compounding. It only works if you survive long enough to let it run. And that brings us to the one thing that kills more wealth than any market crash ever has. Getting wealthy and staying wealthy require completely opposite mindsets, and most people who succeed at one fail at the other. To get wealthy, you need to take risk. You need optimism. You need to believe things will work out and push forward anyway. To stay wealthy, you need the opposite. Humility, because you know late luck played a role. Paranoia, because you know what you built can be taken away. Frugality, not because you're cheap, but because you respect the fragility of what you've built. Housel tells the story of Rick Guerin. You've probably heard of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. 40 years ago, there was a third member of their group, Rick Guerin. Just as smart, just as skilled. But in the 1973 market crash, Rick had borrowed heavily. He got margin calls. He was forced to sell his Berkshire Hathaway stock to Buffett at under $40 a share to survive. He never recovered to their level. Buffett later said, "Charlie and I always knew we would become wealthy. We were not in a hurry. Rick was just as smart, but he was in a hurry." The goal is not to be right. The goal is to not be ruined. Now, we're halfway through and I want to ask you something. When you picture a wealthy person, what do you see? Because whatever image just came to mind, Housel says it's almost certainly wrong. Housel describes what he calls the man in the car paradox. When you see someone driving an expensive car, you think, that person is successful, that person has made it. Here's the truth. No one looking at that car is thinking about the driver. They're imagining themselves in the car. They're thinking about how they would look, how they would feel. The driver is invisible. Real wealth, actual financial independence, is invisible by definition. It's the investment you didn't spend, the car you didn't buy, the house you didn't upgrade. Wealth is what you choose not to show. We are surrounded by the signals of spending. We almost never see the signals of saving. So we build our financial instincts around the wrong model. We associate spending with success, when spending and wealth are often in direct opposition. Rich is a current income. Wealthy is accumulated assets. Rich is visible. Wealthy is invisible. The person who looks rich and the person who is wealthy are often two completely different people. So if real wealth is invisible, if it's not the car, not the house, not the title, then what is it actually for? This is the question Housel spends the whole book building toward, and his answer is simpler than you'd expect. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. Not a yacht, not a mansion, not a title. Control over your own time. Study after study shows that people's happiness is more strongly connected to autonomy, the feeling of being in control of their life, than to income beyond a certain point. Money beyond comfort doesn't buy happiness. What it can buy is time. And time is the one resource that genuinely cannot be manufactured. This reframes everything. The goal of financial independence isn't a number, it's a feeling. The feeling that you chose to be here, that you could leave if you wanted to, that your time belongs to you. That's what you're working toward. Every dollar you save is buying back a little piece of your own future, not to spend later. To own now. The psychology of money is not really about money, it's about people, how we think, how we rationalize, how we compare ourselves to others, how we confuse the appearance of wealth with the reality of it. The janitor who saved quietly for 70 years understood something the Wall Street executive missed completely. It's not about being smarter than the market, it's about behaving well for a long time without breaking. You don't need a perfect plan, you need a sustainable one. Start, stay consistent, don't get ruined. That's the whole game. If this resonated, subscribe. I break down one book per week, down to the ideas that actually matter. See you in the next one.